Hey everyone, it's Alex, and I am super sick. Just trying to rest up a little bit before Twitch drops to hopefully regain some of my energy. But that's not going to stop us for talking about the top 10 statistical best decks for high voltage in Marvel Snap. And these are according to Untapped based statistics. So we're going to get it started here. We're going to go a little faster than usual, but we do have high Toxic at a 62.5% win rate. Essentially, what this is, it's a Toxic Surfer deck. And the advantage of playing this type of deck is that you're able to effectively get some of your core combos off. A lot of the high voltage decks are on the greedier side, so like the Wong style plays with Wong Mystique and Hazmat with Luke Cage. It's kind of like the ways you can get a winning line. Really like this deck. It's really fun. Anytime you have Wong Mystique and some sort of punishing play, I'm all for it. Then what we got here is we do have the high ongoing. I really like this deck as well at a 63.6% win rate. What really surprises me here is that Namor actually does a good job. Because you only have the 3 turns, Namor is often able to be just kind of played by itself, which is neat, right? Oftentimes, Namor is kind of like a wasted card slot, but in this particular mode, because you only have the 3 turns, it's very unlikely that, you're going to have to play into all 3 locations. So having Namor hold down one of them is probably just fine. You can also reach into that with the Claw. You have the Onslaught for the Claw as well, and you have Spectrum. So Namor actually does a really good job in this deck, which I find very, very interesting. So high ongoing at a 63.6% win rate, and it's actually pretty beginner friendly. It's all relatively cheap cards. So if you're looking for a beginner deck to play in high voltage, this is a surprising high performer at number 9. At number 8, we do have High Zoo, and what can I say? It's literally just Zoo. It kind of surprises me that this deck is performing as well as it is in high voltage, because it's not greedy. It's literally just a stock Zoo list, and so if you want to play it, then you absolutely can in high voltage. I find it interesting that this deck does perform as well as it does. I think that the Cosmo is actually the stealer of cubes in my testing, because a lot of people are playing these like Wong super greedy combos in high voltage, and you just win with Cosmo half the time. So that's a major contributor to the percentage win rate on this particular deck. Then we go to number 7, and it's High Leader. Now we're getting into the more kind of expensive base decks, and what you're going to notice here is that a lot of the decks are running things like Leaders and Odins and Super Scrolls to kind of capture all the ongoings that opponents are playing right now. I do like this deck a lot because it has the Black Panther Zola combination, which is very popular, especially in this particular mode. So this one here is much more centric on having that really high end that you can take advantage of with that high voltage gameplay. It's also worth noting that Ebony Maw can be played at any point in the game because it only goes 3 turns. Morph tends to hit very high value targets because everyone's holding 5 and 6 drops. And Jubilee is probably going to pull something good because your whole deck is greedy as balls. So that's number 7 at High Leader. Then we go to High Discard, and it's kind of surprising to me to see this discard deck running a 63.7% win rate in high voltage. It's literally just discard. But I guess because you're able to kind of proc the swarms, go super wide with the swarms, and then like fill the board with the swarms, that's kind of what the play pattern is there, because you can basically MODOK on turn 2, right? And then pump your swarms and etc. I find it kind of interesting that this deck's performing as well as it is. And in my testing, it was the swarms that were producing a lot of the value. With that being said, it's not to say that you don't get value from things like Apocalypse and Dracula, Proxima Midnight, of course. In this deck, though, Gambit is a bit of a splash. I've been personally playing this like Gambit Pew Pew deck, where it's just like Wong Mystique, Onslaught, Gambit. But this obviously is not nearly as greedy as that, but still a high performer at 63.7. Then it takes us to the top 5. High Patriot. You do have an Ebony Maw here, but you do have Patriot as well. It's notable that even if you play the Ebony Maw early on, the Ultron allows you to reach in, as does the Doctor Doom. This deck kind of surprised me that it has a Gamora in it. I was not noticing much Gamora, but at the same time, it's like a lot of people are playing like Wong and stuff like that, so you know where they're going to be playing on oftentimes on their turns. And so Gamora does provide some value here. I do like the Claw. I think Claw is a stealer of cubes. And it surprised me that most of these decks aren't running Shang-Chi, because everyone's running greedy stuff. And so Shang-Chi tends to just wipe out like Red Hulks and stuff like that. So this deck performing very well. And Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo being played because everyone's playing greedy cards, and Baron Zemo is often pulling very expensive pieces. In my testing with this particular deck, I actually was pulling like visions and stuff and arrows with Baron Zemo, which is completely crazy if you think about it. But hey, Zemo actually having a little bit of an impact here. And it takes us to number 4, and it's high on reveal. These are all on reveal cards, and you do have the Doom Odin combination. You got the Blob, you got the Zola Panther, you have the Alioth. It's also notable here that you have Juggernaut for that displacement on turn 3. The Grandmaster, which can be used on Jubilee or on others in order to generate some value. Grandmaster is pretty fun too, because if you don't draw into your Odin, you can actually Grandmaster the Dr. Doom. It'll go to the middle, then reproc its Doom bots, of course. 64.5% win rate, high on reveal, doing a pretty good job in high voltage. And that takes us to our top 3. We have High Panther, and ironically, it's running Hulkling as well, and it's not even the last time we're talking about Hulkling. This deck is running a lot of high-value cards at a 67.4% win rate. Ebony Maw, Cassandra Nova, Morph. The key splash here is Negasonic. I think Negasonic is really fun in this game mode, especially if you're able to pick up initiative going into turn 3. Very fascinating what you're able to do, especially when they're playing lots of greedy stuff and they play their Red Hawk and it just explodes because you took initiative. Really like it. Again, you have the Black Panther Zola play. Hulkling, a bit of a fancy splash that we're seeing in the top end decks, and I played some Hulkling, and I'm actually not all that convinced it's really that good, but it's making some of these top lists, which, hey, you're happy to see, right? And the nice thing is, if Hulkling ends up being something you don't want, then you can just play around it, right? So that's pretty nice. But ultimately, High Panther running a 67.4% win rate. Then we have High Legion. I'm just picking a random card and calling it that, I guess. For High something, High blank, and I just picked Legion because it was the one in here. Could have been High Wiccan, I guess. This has a bit of more of a ramp package. I do like the Quake in here because it does provide a nice surprise play on turn 3 if you do have like Nexus or any sort of like Altar of Death, stuff like that. I like the Quake. You do have Negasonic in here as well. Super Scroll, Baron Zemo, Gwenpool. And what I really like about this deck is the Ultron, which kind of just fills in without needing to run the Patriot or even just showcasing, hey, Ultron is being played at all. Ultron's interesting because it's very hard to fill the board on 3 turns, especially when you're playing more expensive cards. And so Ultron helps to give you like this like balanced attack. It's also worth noting that there are some of the high voltage missions that say like, hey, win all 3 locations or whatever. And this deck tends to do that pretty effectively. In the top deck is High Hulkling, and I mean, it's very similar to the one prior. This one running a Kyera. You do have the Vision and the Arrow as well. Alioth being very valuable in these high-performing decks because of all the Wong Zola stuff that's going on. Anytime you see Wong, you can confidently just play Alioth on that and just wipe out that combination. In terms of cube rate, you are looking at Alioth being one of the top ones. It's been funny because like this deck is performing exceptionally well at 67.6% win rate, but I personally find myself playing Baron and like Morph and Ebony Maw. Havoc makes this deck too, which is great. A very high performing shell. You'll love to see it. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you on that next one.